in the background, Yanis. Nice to see you all. How are you doing? How's it going? Are you okay? Okay.
Not too bad.
Not too bad, even in the middle of the night. That's that's a great sign. So what we're going to do today is to have a brief intro recap of the last sessions you have you went through, especially the part on adoption. Then we are going to focus on two types of questions. The first one is about adoption, and let's see how much time we need. And if there is some time left, I would like to give you the chance to ask other questions. So questions about the previous, lessons or previous steps, something that is not clear, something you want to hear more about. And finally, we'll do a round of takeaways. We'll have a final board in which we'll ask you to write a brief comment, and then which one of us will share it with the group. Before jumping into that, again, let me state this. You're going to be invited in the main community. So for this course, we had a small community with among ourselves for questions, materials, but we have a broader community that is growing and in which all the participants are now being invited from previous editions, but also people from IER itself. We're going to have other masterclasses next week actually, and so we'll have another 50-60 people joining, so you will have the chance to talk to them and to see how they're doing in different parts of the world. And you're going to see people from other organizations, Buurtzorg or ING or Roche, for example. So without further ado, let me just recap what hopefully you went through about adoption. So far, we focus mostly on the artifacts, on the EMC, on the ME, on the industry platform. In this last lesson, what we did is instead thinking about how to move towards what IER has been inspiring, and not so much to copy them, but to look for ideas, for artifacts, for principles that could be introduced in other organizations. And we believe this cannot be done in a top-down traditional fashion. So what you have read about is really inspired to complexity and, in a sense, to agile, in a very broad sense, to agile. What we suggested in the presentation is to, first of all, start from business goals. So what you want to achieve. And unfortunately, we see it missing a lot. Many organizations that reach out to us asking for ideas from the Rendanheyi really don't know what to do about it. So it's cool, it's interesting, but it's not clear why they should look at the Rendanheyi. And probably so at this point, you have understood very well that maybe this is not the right transformation for every organization. This is not the one that will give you any result that you might be expecting. So being clear about what you can expect and what you cannot expect is really important. It's probably a good example if you're looking for more entrepreneurship, more power distribution, the ability to reduce the distance from the customer, all the the values that are infused into the Rendanheyi. It may be not the best transformation if you are looking to focus on the individual, if you are looking for a focus even on the team, because Rendanheyi is quite agnostic in terms of the dynamics happening into the team, at the point that you could mix it with sociocracy or with holacracy, again, as you have seen in the slides, or even with practices and rituals from agile retrospectives or stand-ups and other approach. So at the end, the level at which the Rendanheyi is operating is really the organization, and how to empower teams to look for businesses, really small enterprises, and how to change the context of the organization around it. It is a bit less precise and prescriptive in terms of the sphere of the individual and the dynamics into the team. So starting from the why is really important, because the why will tell you if the Rendanheyi is a good example or not. The second point that we tend to stress a lot is that there is no target operating model. We have been asked, what's the TOM for this transformation? Where are we going to be in 3 months or 6 months or 3 years? And the answer is always, we don't know. And actually, we believe you shouldn't know. Because if this transformation is really about empowering the teams, and it's really about complexity, so emergence from the team and the organization, there is no way you can tell them in 3 months it's going to look like that. And this is a struggle, because most managers want to see this. So they want to have a nice PowerPoint slide with all the steps and all the deliverables by each phase, the effort they will have at every step. And this is not possible. The process we recommend is a bit different, and it's much more about inviting the entire organization to come up with pilots. So with what we call evolution seeds. So seeds through which you can try to change things around the business goals that you have already defined, with the idea that some of those seeds may fail. So failure is possible. Actually, it could be even a probably very possible opportunity here, because you want to learn from this. And another aspect in this regard is that when we say a pilot, it shouldn't necessarily be a pilot of microenterprise, because this is also what is happening in the market. What colleagues are invited to do is to come up with microenterprises, but sometimes this is not enough. So for some opportunities, unless you tackle right away the rest of the organization and you figure out the interdependencies between your idea of business and what everybody else in the firm should give you, you will fail. And often in a number of projects, Fujitsu is an example that conversation we published, this is not happening yet maybe after 1 year, after 1.5 years. So you start from a microenterprise. So what this is happening also in Europe. And then, okay, let's give these guys the mandate to figure out how to collaborate with others. But the others don't know anything about the Rendanheyi. And they don't care, because they have other goals, they follow other logics, and they won't play ball. What we are doing instead is trying to look at the business opportunity at 360 degrees. So trying to map all the actors, even in the company bureaucracy, that should be part of your initiative. So if you want, it's more an EMC than an ME. And following what John Grimming says, it's more the rainforest than the tree. So you may want to have many ideas of pilots, not just one, not two, not three, but depending on the size of the organization, you may be willing to look for many ideas. And here, giving a bit of information to, if it's a big organization, to the board, but also the middle management and potentially the rest of the organization about examples, about the potential implications, about some of the things that you have seen in this training, can really engage everybody in the organization to come up with ideas for pilots. If that's possible, that's what we try to do. So we try to launch a call to action for the organization to create a portfolio of pilots. It could be an online platform, a bit like a DM management, if you have seen that, or it could be just, PowerPoint slides if you are not into that. But nonetheless, you want to have the different parts of the organization, different levels of the organization, different functions of the organization to come up with their availability and with their ideas. And you can use the canvases to describe this. So the canvases could be a tool, a possibility to help them describe what they want to achieve, what's the business model, or what are the services, how revenues are going to go, and costs, and all of that. Then you're going to pick a few pilots in your experience, and you're going to help them to get up and running. And again, here it's where most projects are failing. So having ideas and pilots is easy. Helping them really to solve the long list of questions that they may have at the beginning, it's not that easy. And in the document, in the presentation, you have seen a list of questions. So the typical questions about compensation, about how much time should I dedicate to these, about hierarchy, how should I convince my boss, or how will I track value exchange among micro enterprises? All of these are hard questions. Right now, our organizations are not equipped to answer these questions. Just think about value exchange. Being monoliths, our organizations are not able to say who is going to give what to whom. So there is no mechanism for micro enterprises or for teams to track how much value they are giving and how much value they are getting back, or money they are getting back from other parts of the organization. This is a big problem. If you have 3 pilots, it's easy. You can write it in an Excel file. If you have 300, it's not that easy. So at the end, there are some questions for which we don't have answers yet. Still, you will have to help the organization, the pilots, to find some of these answers. And at the same time, through these pilots, a first framework of new organization will emerge. So you will see if the micro enterprises are more aligned to products, are more aligned to user needs, are more aligned to processes. It depends on the business. It depends on the maturity. We are going to see to what extent HR, IT, legal is going to participate to these, or if you need to engage external parties to that. And you're going to see also the availability of bosses in the traditional hierarchy to let their people participate to this experimentation. And this is often another bigger barrier. When you say, okay, you have 30 people, but I want 10 of them to spend 50% of their time in doing this. Really? I have my objectives, I have my MBOs, I'm going to be paid on this, and you want to take my people out and to use them to do something for you. So talking to these people, to the bosses, and finding a way to give something back to the traditional hierarchy is a success factor. So you need to negotiate with the hierarchy if you want to hijack or impact the hierarchy. You cannot ignore it in most organizations we are working with. So the big question is, what's the relationship between this Rendanheyi thing and everything else we have? This is the biggest question. And you need a transition strategy to tell them, okay, let's start from this thing, We are not going to destroy or disrupt your hierarchy. We are going to slowly migrate, to demonstrate the value, find quick wins, learn from it, fail from it, and then scale it. And that's the last part of the process. So only when you see value, actually only when they see value, you will be entitled in terms of investments, in terms of resources, to really touch the hierarchy and touch the traditional mechanisms. So in a nutshell, what we have is 3 parts. The first part is what we call the Boundaryless Academy. It's training, it's content, it's examples, it's energy, it's inspiration. Just letting them understand what is happening in the world, what's at risk, and what's the benefit from it. And the largest the population, the best in our experience. So we have done this with hundreds of managers. It doesn't mean that all of them will be happy to participate, but still you have created a sort of baseline of common language and possibility. The second step is building a portfolio of pilots. So some of them will reach out to you and say, well, I would like to try this. How does it work? What's in it for me? And these are your champions, your change agents, the people that will put their skin in the game and experiment and give you quick wins. And finally, the third part is the model, the framework that is going to emerge more than being imposed from the top. So there is no Tom, actually there is no model. It's your learnings from the pilots that are going to be somehow codified get this cycle running again. So from the pilots, you will build something that you will use then as a sort of guideline for future pilots. And you will keep refining again, again, and again through them. In our experience, this is the only way. So going there and telling them, listen, you have to, tomorrow morning, we are going to disrupt the hierarchy. We're going to replace the hierarchy with a number of micro enterprises and EMCs. It's not acceptable, not interesting. And actually, it's not what most organizations want to do. The first sentence we hear is that we don't want to do what Hire is doing. We don't want to copy them. We are not Hire. We are not in the same industry. We don't have Jean Grimin. So help us to go in that direction, but in our own unique way. So in a nutshell, that's it. We have put together a few questions that you have seen. We have put together the canvases, and we have started to draft, because it's really a draft, the process. And as we said since the beginning, there are not many examples, to be sincere. There are only a few examples of large organizations. Each one of them is doing a part of the model. There are a few examples of small organizations that are nimbler, but less interesting for large organizations. And there is even less into the public sector. So for those interested into the public sector, well, this is very new. But there are thousands and thousands of organizations that are currently trying to do this. So I think it's a good time for experimenting, and it's a good time for tweaking it with any other methodology, any other tool set, any other framework that you may have in your own experience. So again, teal organizations, beyond budgeting, World Blue, sociocracy, holacracy, exactly because the Rendanheyi is not trying to cover it all. It's possible to integrate it with everything else. And Zappos, to me, but also Make, even if it is a smaller organization, they're good examples of how you can mix it. So for me, my main question, and that's what we are doing in Boundaries, is how can I mix it with everything else I have, and especially with what I need from my organization in terms of values, in terms of culture, in terms of a business. It's one thing if I'm selling fridges or if I'm selling PowerPoint slides, of course. So the journey want to look the same. Let me stop here. I know this is very, very high level, but I think complexity and complex adaptive systems are a good way to look at these and to avoid some dangerous mistakes, or to address some questions from clients that really go against the spirit of the Rendanheyi. So I will share the link to the board. And my first question, I don't know, Lara, if you can do that. My first question is for you, if there is any question or thought about the adoption. Is this resonating with you? Do you think that there is something big missing? Do you think that this is too far from the kind of organizations you are working with? Because each one of you at the end is involved in one or more organizations. Or even if you have, better suggestions about how to help for-profits and non-profit organizations to take inspiration from the Rendanheyi. The board is in the chat. I will open it and show it for you. Okay, let me get started, and I will try to start from actually ourselves. So what we have been doing at Boundaries and the relationship with other frameworks. So let me share again my my screen. Hopefully you can see this picture. This picture is a mix of the Rendanheyi and the sociocracy. So let me explain it briefly. Each circle here on the bottom is a micro enterprise, and we have 3 micro enterprises, we are a small company. We have 3 micro enterprises that are somewhat connected to products or services that we provide to the market or internally. The team, our team is part of the EO micro enterprise, so the one that is focusing on the Rendanheyi. But we have another micro enterprise focusing on the market, on business model thinking and platform design thinking. And finally, we have another micro enterprise that is called Boundaryless X. That is more about content production, community management, and if you want, it's a node ME. It's providing services to us, but is also providing, let's say, some services to the entire organization. We also have a shared services platform with the usual suspects: IT, HR, legal, finance. And then we have an experienced EMC. So micro enterprises come together when the client wants to have services both about platform-driven transformation and organizational transformation. So this is mostly Rendanheyi. What we have on top of that is a mechanism based on sociocracy. These other circles, the mission circle and the governance circle, are two of the main ideas from sociocracy. The governance circle is a circle that puts together all the needs, all the decisions coming from these micro enterprises and these SSPs, and does that through consent. Consent means not consensus, doesn't mean autocratic decision making. So it's not the boss deciding, it's not everybody agreeing. It's deciding together through objections. Objections means that I can say, cannot say that I must agree with something, but what I can say is that I object to something. So I have an information that is so relevant for the goals of this team that this information should be integrated into the decision. An objection, it's not a preference. It's not I like it red or I like it blue. It's I have something that will prevent us from moving closer to our goal. So this is on behalf of the team. It's not for me. On top of the governance circle, there is another circle. It's called the mission circle that looks after purpose. So it's not so much about operations. It's really about the future. It's really about why do we exist. It's really about protecting the direction. And finally, these arrows are called double linking. Double linking, a bit like in holacracy, is a way to split managers in two parts. One is the operational leader, and is somebody that is representing the upper circle into a circle to coordinate work. It's not a boss, it's not a manager, it's really a coordinator, one that knows the work and that can help others to respect deadlines and to collaborate and to move ahead. The delegate does a bit of the opposite job. So she or he represents the team into the upper circle. So he's or she's reporting about the needs, about conflicts, and in a sense, he or she counterbalances the operational leader. Both of them are members of each circle and the upper circle, so that there is no way to manipulate information or to steer decisions, because you have two members in every circle playing two different roles. And consent is the mechanism for doing this. Why we are doing all of this? Because on top of distributing power, on top of unlocking human potential, what we want to do is also to protect purpose, to protect the equivalence of the individuals, and to be intentional into distributing responsibilities. And sociocracy does this very well. So it's a way to make explicit who is doing what, and to decide about that together. So there is no centralized design, no top-down design. It's really about having a mechanism through which all together we can distribute the responsibilities and we can change the responsibilities among ourselves as peers, as people that have the same weight. So on one side, the Rendanheyi, outside the market driven, very entrepreneurial, about value sharing, about bringing the customer at the center. On the other side, something, if you want, apparently softer, that brings the individual at the center, equivalence of the purpose at the center. What we are doing is very similar. We didn't know, but what we are doing is very similar to what Zappos is doing, not through sociocracy, but through allocracy. They're calling it customer-based dynamics, what the Rendanheyi is doing, and they're using allocracy. But at the end, it doesn't matter. At the end, it's exactly the same. You have entrepreneurship, but also you have a strong belief in the value of individuals and the respect for individuals and the possibility to express yourself. So this is in a nutshell. I think it addresses a couple of questions. It's not the only way. Again, teal may be another possibility. Beyond budgeting has a number of other ideas that play very well. It's just two levels. So allocracy and sociocracy really plays well into the team level, not so much into the individual level, if you want to look at that at the multiple levels of complexity. The Rendanheyi is really about the organization and how to systemically empower the organization to feel, to sense the market, to sense the customers, and to rearrange value flows around the customer. So just stop me if you have follow-up questions about this. Let me share the board again. So on the board, you asked, how do you discuss the need to measure the success of the ME or EMC? When does the org know it is on the right track? There are two ways of measuring. One is really about activity, counting the number of MEs, counting the number of EMCs, and unfortunately some companies are doing it. I don't think it's really relevant here. Maybe 3 MEs are enough, or maybe 3 MEs are nothing. It depends on how big, and really the value that those MEs can bring. We feel that the MEs are created to reach business goals mostly, and it could be business goals, it could be profit, customer metrics, employee metrics, as we have seen from Make, but nonetheless, they are there to reach some goals. They are not there just to experiment with some organizational weird things. So to me, the goal for doing all of this, the first goal and the easiest to sell, it's this is going to improve your performance. So it's going to improve your business. And this is how Fujitsu came to it. So Fujitsu launched it because they were too slow. They were too slow. They couldn't address the needs from their customers quickly enough to avoid losing them. As a big organization, they were too slow. So they felt this idea of the Rendanheyi could empower customer-facing teams to get rid of the internal bureaucracy and to satisfy customer needs. So what they're measuring at the end, it's how quickly they're able to do this. So the metrics will depend on the goals that you want to achieve through this transformation. If you are not able to articulate these, I think this is where the project cannot move forward. So probably to me, this is the only situation in which it's really pointless to move ahead. Can we hear more examples of combining approach with allocracy or beyond budgeting? I don't know about experiences with beyond budgeting. I can see the potential, but I've never seen Rendanheyi plus beyond budgeting. But our experience, Boundaries experience, has been presented to, actually Ted is joined Ted's conference, so the global sociocracy conference. Zappos is part of our EO conversation, so you can find it. Bosch, that we are going to publish soon, is an example of integrating the Rendanheyi with Agile. And Agile, again, it's another possibility, and probably it's the easiest, or the most frequent path, because it seems everybody is doing Agile, and even make as ideas of integration between the Rendanheyi and Agile. But again, if you look at the levels of the organization, to me, the starting point, the initial idea of connecting the Rendanheyi to other approaches, what do we want to do, and to which level of the organization we are looking at. So if that's the individual, well, to be sincere, the Rendanheyi is not addressing that much. If that's within the team, again, you may look you may look for getting things done. You may look for agile practices. You may look for sociocratic practices. And then you have the organization, and this is where the Rendanheyi is really, to me, standing out. But sociocracy brings, for example, other tools such as the mission circle and the governance circle, and that's not the only approach. So my take starts from the needs and then looks for the pieces, the ingredients that you want to add. What is the factor that will make or break the transformation to the Rendanheyi? So the first one is the one I already described. So be sure that you know the why, that you are clear about why the organization is trying to do this. The most frequent why that we heard is that we want to empower the entire organization and every individual with it to pursue new opportunities. That's to me, that's the most frequent answer. And with that, what we are saying is that we are reducing the distance from customers. So then we are empowering every individual to feel, to find opportunities with the customers. So if you have this, the Rendanheyi is great. Otherwise, maybe not. The fact that the support function may not be ready, that culture may not be ready, to me is not that important, because no organization I ever met is ready. So I'm talking about huge organizations. They are not ready. They will tell you they are scared, they are frightened by this transformation. They don't feel like being like higher. So it's always the same answer. If we stop there, well, okay, we won't ever have any example. So we feel a bit of courage is needed. So you must look for people with courage in the organization that will benefit from exposing themselves and looking for a possible journey. How to convince upper management to give up power? The starting point to transformation need is always dependent on CEO decision. Not really, to be sincere, especially in big organizations. So we have seen business unit owners, let's say, as the champions, or we have seen HR being the champion. In any case, whoever is championing it, eventually you need to onboard the rest of the organization. So quite always we see at some point a workshop with the board, a workshop with senior stakeholders in which they explain the idea, they explain a bit about the model and get their feedback. So whoever is studying this, eventually you have to talk with the CEO and you have to talk with the board. Otherwise, this is not going to fly. It will stay as just an experiment. If a company is not willing to change its incentive scheme to give employees adequate profit sharing, will all of this work? That's a great question. And I can tell you that the incentivization scheme is one of the biggest hurdles, also for contractual reasons. So putting your hands on this, you may have councils, it's really difficult. We have seen examples in which the company would have liked to reduce the base salary to increase the variable salary for employees. So to give them an upside, even significant upside, but while nudging them to be more entrepreneurial, eventually many of them had to to do one step back and to confirm base salary and to find profit sharing mechanisms. This, in our experience, is very slow. So at the beginning, this is absent in most cases. This is really hard. Still, you need to figure out something that will make it appealing for the colleagues experimenting to put themselves at risk. So it could be, yeah, a bit of profit. In some cases, we have seen a budget dedicated to the project that is going to use as a profit sharing or a variable pay for those participating. So it's the company putting money on the table and saying, we're going to put, I don't know, 1 million on the table. Those participating in this experiment will share this 1 million based on the results they achieved. This is not done, if you want, from the business initially. It's done by the company that wants to match this a bit. But eventually this should become business as usual. So eventually incentivization schemes, equity, profit sharing are mandatory. It's not the first step. How can you make sure that the organization is on the right track and measuring the success of the ME? I think this is quite similar to the first one. I think there was another question about how to measure, how to track the value. So again, this is ideally a prerequisite, but no organization, or really a few organizations I know of, have this capability of tracking value exchange, for the very simple reason that they don't have this independent unit with an independent profit and loss today. So they don't need it. They don't need to do this. So this is the first time you're asking them to track. And this is difficult again. So this is missing. And what we are trying to do on one side is building software to this. So software will keep track for us. But at the pilot stage, we are also trying to simplify as much as possible. So let's just keep track in the simplest way. What is that a micro enterprise is giving others? We are talking about a catalog of services. So each micro enterprise, like a piece of software, is exposing APIs, it's exposing a list of services that other MEs or EMCs can buy and can pay for. So what we are tracking is how many times as an ME owner or as an EMC owner, I used your services. This is what we are tracking. Very simple. And of course, we are also tracking profit sharing after the delivery of the service. But nonetheless, this is simple, maybe a few services. It may not be precise, but it will be just enough to give you a quick win. So to demonstrate that that actually there is value, that actually we have been moving closer to our goals. Okay, can you explain slide 15? This is what we have done. If that's not clear, just stop me. So for boundaryless, this is what we have done. I still struggle to see how the basic income compensation plus value from ME can work legally in European countries. It doesn't. So meaning that fortunately or likely, I don't know, but we don't have a basic income, but you have a salary. So at the end, the salary is not exactly the basic income, but it will be something you need to use, you need to respect even. To do what? To demonstrate that the upsides may be huge, and then to convince, but this is opt-in, colleagues to change their contract. So to nudge them to become entrepreneurs and not to stay employees. But in my experience in Europe, in Germany, in France, in Italy, it's very difficult to impose it, and probably it's not even fair to impose it. So the process won't be firing the 10,000 managers. It's not going to look like that. It's about starting to hire people that are in line with all of this, and starting to transition, for example, the most senior people to get skin in the game, to become owners, potentially to get a benefit, a significant benefit in launching new micro enterprises, but by now it's opt-in. It's not something you can do if not in special conditions. So okay, if you are selling a piece of the company or restructuring the company, it may be possible, but generally speaking, this is not possible. That's different. But again, we have examples in hire in every part of the world, and they don't have a universal basic income, and still it's working. What is the answer when an org does not have a consolidated financial system, won't be able to track value generated? Don't even think about Rendanheyi. No, actually, this is what I was saying. Think about Rendanheyi, demonstrate the value in the easiest way possible, and then ask yourself through software, if you are serious, how to track value. But at the beginning, this is not mandatory. So when you have 3, 4, 10 micro enterprises or 15 Fujitsu, it's not really mandatory. It becomes when you want to scale. And this is my expectation is that this is going to become available for free. So we are going to have tools for this next year. When a company makes this Rendanheyi transformation, I would manage those who are not prepared to join the journey, even if they have success case. Can it be a hybrid system between current and Rendanheyi? That's another great question. So when we present all of these to larger companies, what they try to do is to separate what they feel they're able to do and what they feel they are not able to do. So the answer in a nutshell is you won't see many organizations do it all. Just forget it. I've never seen a perfect Rendanheyi implementation. So that's not the goal. The goal is looking at your objectives and trying to understand which set of artifacts will help you to achieve those objectives, and will support each other's, of course. So will be coherent, not taking everything that hire has to offer. So definitely, if there are people that are not into this, they won't be included in the first pilots. Maybe they won't be included into the experiment initially. They may be after 6 months, they may be after 12 months. They will be when they see what's the impact for the organization and for them. At some point, if the organization is really moving in that direction, and this is what happened in Fujitsu, some people may be invited to leave. So if that's the direction, if we want to evolve our mindset, if we want to have people that are more entrepreneurial, well, maybe some people will no longer be a good fit. But again, it's not the beginning. For a company, again, we start Rendanheyi from start. Any example? Yes. So from start, let's say smaller companies such as Make that I was mentioning. There's another company in Canada that is trying to do this, and these are companies that have less than 100 people, and they are trying to scale more than start because they have a few years of experience in the market, so they are not corporations with 100 of years, but still they are trying to use this for differentiating their business, for building new products, entering new markets, and for scaling in terms of size what they're trying to do. The same is happening for us. So we are using the Rendanheyi to enter new spaces, so something that we were not in, and to do that in an entrepreneurial way. But again, we are at the beginning, so most of the examples that do exist are in the community or are connected to higher or learning to higher from higher or are presenting at the highest conferences. So if we stay close, let's say you will meet them, and we are just talking about an initial group of pioneers. What was missing for you so that you fill the gaps with sociocracy? Okay, this is something I think discussed, but in a nutshell, purpose. We wanted to focus on purpose, and we wanted to focus on equivalence, and we wanted really to have a consent-based mechanism for including everybody in the design of the organization. What would be a moment to stop implementing Rendanheyi into a company? I think there are two moments. One is when you are successful but too rigid. Higher, but the other companies we're working with actually are leaders in the market, and they want to stay leaders, and they fear to be too slow. Fujitsu as well. So they fear that using the current structure, organizational structure, they won't be able to do this. So that's one moment. It's not a crisis, actually, it's the opposite. They're doing well. They want to jump to the next step and keep doing well and keep leading the market. To me, the second, so this is just for my colleagues, this is just one point. For me, the second point is when you are a smaller company and you need just that bit of structure that will help you to scale. In my experience, when you already have 35, 50 people, the natural next step is hierarchy. You start building functions, you start building support team, you start introducing hierarchy. Basically, you become like a corporation without being a corporation. The alternative here is instead to use the Rendanheyi as that minimum viable structure that will empower teams to remain entrepreneurial while still having something in terms of services in common, the SSP. So it's really focusing on what you want to share and what you want everybody to pay for, but to assign everything else to entrepreneurial teams that are customer facing. So if you want, it's two different times in the company life. And finally, should we have a pre-assessment for them before starting the Rendanheyi journey? Some of the canvases that we have shared could be used as a sort of pre-assessment. So if you look at the trio map or the culture canvas, basically they could be used as a easy, high-level, picture of the organization to understand if they are architecting, if they are supporting, and how they are performing all the key functions. It's not strictly speaking an assessment, but it will give you an idea of the starting point, will give you an idea of the empty areas, it will give you an idea about what could be needed from the transformation in terms of organizational artifacts to move towards the Rendanheyi. In any case, even with these, I would not recommend then doing a top-down transformation. So you cannot say, oh, we don't have SSPs, let's build SSPs. This should be emerge from real use cases that you collect from participants. So it's not having an assessment to fill the gaps, it's having an assessment to get a rough idea about where the company is, and then launching an emergent co-created process for engaging the organization to come up with ideas, and only then to build, let's say, the minimum viable structure for the organization. Let me stop here to see if there is any feedback or further question about this part.
Emmanuel, the journey that you described early on is I would call it very ambiguity, and it depends on each context, right? How each context of the company, how would we I'm not sure what's the right word, but how would we guide them and make them feel confidence along the way? Because it's about discovering trial and test along the way all the time. But how would we communicate and ensure this kind of confidence to those who will, join this journey?
So for me, the confidence is not about the single step. So if they're looking for reassurance that every single step will be the best one, you cannot give it to them. First of all, because this is too new, but also because it doesn't resonate with the mindset behind it. There is experimental. Think about the forest and the tree. So if you want to have 3 trees, and to be sure that all of them will become huge trees, perfectly green, with that shape that you want to have, well, probably this is not the right environment. What you can focus on is on the outcome. So this may be the only approach for reaching some specific outcomes at scale. And now we start to have examples with numbers says that this is very impactful, and there are not other examples that could be as powerful in terms of scale. Because one of the first questions I asked Brian Robertson when I did my holacracy training has been, what's the biggest organization you have done this with? And basically I said, doesn't matter. It will work with every organization. Okay, just tell me one. And it wouldn't. So at the end, and the same may be true for sociocracy. There are not many. Zappos was one of the biggest examples of sociocracy, and we are talking about a few thousand people. So if you are a company, traditional hierarchical company, in a traditional sector, and maybe in a part of the world that there is a bit hierarchical in terms of culture, these examples won't be, so convincing. Hire has all these characteristics. And actually, now they are used as inspiration by other companies that are nimble, that are small, that are in different industries. So for me, the starting point is the price, is what you could achieve through these. If there is alignment, probably it's worth taking the risk and working with some pilots, working with some teams to experiment this. If you imagine this as a transformation from A to B, this is not the right one, because there is no A, there is no B, and actually there is no written path in the middle. So unfortunately, this is difficult, and I guess right now not many organizations are willing to do this, but the number is growing. So more and more traditional organizations are seeing this as a unique opportunity to tweak it and to use it in their own space to gain an adaptive advantage. This is, to me, the selling point. You're going to get an advantage. You're going to use it to reach some specific goals. If you cannot trust this journey, probably it will be difficult to do it. It will be easy to experiment with it, but probably the impact won't be big.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Other questions or reactions? Sure, go ahead.
2 questions. One question is, do you use vans at Boundarless? Like, do you do the contracting?
Yeah, we are starting to do that. To be sincere, we prioritize clients. So we are more advanced with clients than with ourselves, also because we are very small. So some of the things we have been doing, it was really to try them, so to push ourselves to try them more than because we strictly needed them. But yes, right now the focus is on VAM and EMC contracts. This is the hottest part. And also, again, one of the examples, Make, is investing a lot on incorporation contracts, employment contracts, and let's say partnership contracts. So contracts, if you want, are construct that is typical of Rendanheyi, even more than micro enterprises, since you have circles, you have squads, you have pods in any other approach. So this is not unique. What is unique is the level of power distribution. The profit and loss is quite unique, and the recombination of services through the contracts, through the EMCs. But yeah, what we have already is that you may ask for an investment. So the company basically is giving you money to this. You're going to commit yourself on goals, but it's embryonic. It's not a formalized VAM as Hire does. Not yet, but we are working on it for ourselves.
And how do you practice the bidding and evaluation system?
So that's another great question. Thank you. At the beginning, in our experience, there is no bidding. So what is happening is that most companies have sponsors, so the people that will become owners that know the people that should be part of the micro enterprise and then on the EMC, and they just nudge them to join. It's a trick, but you have to start somewhere. So the starting point is without bidding. Some of these companies, nonetheless, already have platforms, HR platforms, to collect talent around the organization. So for open positions, so they are using it as bidding systems. So I have a new role that is part of an ME, and I can bid on that role. Again, you need software for this. So the software is going to include it. It will be giving the possibility for employees to bid on micro enterprises, on jobs, and it will empower micro enterprises to bid on contracts from EMCs. So this is going to be made available. At the beginning, it's very static. You just want to demonstrate. It's much easier than this, and you pick people or you do call. So basically say, okay, we are going to create 3 micro enterprises who has the competencies to fill these roles, basically, and then is willing to join. My experience, that's the beginning. In other cases, Fujitsu, it's really top down. You join the micro enterprise. Okay, I wouldn't go that way, but we just think that we are talking about traditional organizations. So this is the question: how can I help a traditional organization to transition towards this? At the beginning, it's a bit ugly. So at the beginning, it's not clean, it's not perfect, it's not elegant. It's a bit messy and pushy. So you need to fake it at the beginning before really doing it. Sorry, guys, I'm giving you real answers. So this is how it's going. So it's not perfect.
We want the truth, nothing but the truth. One last question is, for me, there's always a difference. Like you can display things totally different, like on a virtual board, like with circles and stuff, but it might be the same hierarchy in reality. So how, for example, on the example of the shared services you have, like how, if I would join you guys for one day, like what would be the first signs that I would realize those shared services are acting in that mentality in this way, and not like a normal IT, HR department or whatever? Like how would I behavioral notice the difference?
So in our case, it's pretty simple, but because we are simple, there's nobody saying I'm the IT guy, I'm the financial guy, I'm the whatever. It's a role. It's really a role that somebody is filling for a period of time. Sometimes it's external people. So we may have a consultant that is paid to do this and to provide services. But just keep in mind that the SSPs may be paid. So maybe you may have a budget that is pre-allocated at the beginning of the year to pay for the salary of the people in SSPs, or partially for the people in SSPs. So if you want to guarantee to have a legal service, because you already know that you're going to have that amount of work, what you can say is, I'm going to spend 20,000 euros to pay somebody to provide this service, this legal service. That person could be external, that's it, or that person could be internal, and we'll have to cover other roles to augment the salary. In our case, again, there is basically nobody internally that is only assigned to an SSP. So that's easy. You have to join an ME if you want, a bit like in hire, if you want to complement your salary. In other cases, the SSP is really the hurdle. It's really where they are struggling, and it's really where you have to rethink contracts, because you are telling HR people you're going to be judged by the feedback of your colleagues. If you're not giving them a good service, they will buy the same service from the market. And in doing that, in our projects, we are differentiating between externalizable services and non-externalizable services. Think about compliance. You cannot externalize compliance. It's, you know, it's an internal function for many reasons, legal reason as well. So a bit of bureaucracy will stay in that function, and it's fine, because you want to guarantee that you are respecting the law. So we are not going to the extreme of getting rid of all the bureaucracy. Some of the bureaucracy is needed to be sure that we are giving the organization the right service. But maybe you can complement that by having other, you know, legal colleagues outside from the firm, so not to exceed the amount of bureaucracy, just the minimum, and then to have ways to extend it from outside. So it's always a combination, and actually it's also always trying to guess a bit the needs and to revise the amount of service and the bureaucracy that you are trying to create. So for us, the SSP is very simple. In other cases, it's a huge problem, and what they have not solved yet. My suggestion is don't address SSPs after you have addressed MEs, because MEs will fail because SSPs. If I need the HR services and they won't come back to me in 3 months, as it happened in Fujitsu, well, okay, you can do all the MEs that you want, but you won't go back to the client within 3 months. So you have failed. So addressing this at the same time and getting guarantee that you know, somebody is going to take up the phone in HR is important. Maya.
Yeah, thanks. So actually related to the SSPs, now that you're discussing, I was trying to find that that part, but I can't remember. But there was something about HR as an example, I don't know, being, you know, also being compensated or rewarded based on the, well, the performance of the individuals, of how they designed the compensation, right? And I had the questions like, how can that even work, right? Because this is complex. I can't, you know, make HR responsible for individuals not meeting their, you know, their goals because of how they designed the system. Plus, think about hygiene factors, you know, pay not being the only motivator, or actually not being a motivator. So could you elaborate on that? Because we're really triggering me right now in this discussion.
So something that you may have seen in the content is that the support SSPs are involved in the EMC and ME creation. So they are structurally involved. So there is a workflow, there is a process of approval in which legal, finance, HR are involved, and they are paid for it. So when you complete the VAM, they are involved. Maybe not, it's not a big involvement, but they are involved. When you are trying to estimate the leading goals, finance is involved, and they are paid. So if you want, it's like having an EMC in which you say, okay, you're going to help me with this, and you're going to get compensated in this way. Another way is, I need to create a new micro enterprise. I need 500 people to do that. I go and HRME and say, okay, I'm launching an EMC. I need 500 people. Are you going to bid on that? Are you going to commit to give me the right 500 people in 3 weeks or 3 months, wherever? what do you want to get in exchange? And they would say, okay, I can do that. I need to bring lots of resources on the table. I want to have 10% of everything you're going to, to generate. Okay, so they are making a bet. Basically, they're saying, I'm committing the resources now. I believe you can succeed. I believe the resources I'm going to provide are the best resources in the world. And I'm hoping to get 10% of a huge amount of money in exchange. This is very often happening. So the HR is becoming a partner, really a partner of the organization. And again, not everything is value sharing. So especially in the SSPs, a part of the salary is pre-allocated. So it's not all emerging. You may say, okay, I'm going to cover their costs, and then everything else, margin, for example, should be paid by providing a good service to their colleagues. That's let's say, a more traditional way to do that. But the only thing you shouldn't do is to let them in the room happy with their services and not connected to the value they generate for internal customers or external customers. This is something that won't work in this approach. Any final question? Because I don't want to go too late. I can stay, but I don't want to block all of you. And then I would like to do a final round. And again, maybe for other questions you may have on the approach, let's use the community. So we'll have a community and we can use that. Sure, Charlie.
I have a question, but it's about you know, the website and everything. How what is the part that we can keep after the class? What are the parts that we still can access, and for how long?
So you will get all the boards. Somebody asked for it, so you can download all the boards from Miro. You will get the link to that, and we'll send you also the deck of the slides. Let's say from the courses, so you can get also that if you want to go through the content again.
What about the content of the classes that we have been reading? Yeah,
that content, yes. Yeah, of course, the videos won't be videos, it would be slides, but yes. Any other burning question? Jorge, I see that you have a question. Yeah.
Yes, the software that you told us about, when will it be ready?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, you may help us with the answer. So we're going to announce it at the 920. The 920 is IR's global conference that is going to happen on the 18th of September. So basically in 2 weeks. And we are going to announce an alliance. So the software would be open source. IR would be part of it. And on the 18th, we are going to show, let's say, a mock-up of the software. So there won't be software yet. We're going to show the use cases, some of the things that we have been discussing today, what the software will do, and architecturally speaking, how we envision different players to have a role in that. But if you are interested, we have a few seats to invite you to this to the event. So if you want to join and listen and to participate, happy to do that. And then we'll open it. So at the end, it's really open. So if you're interested in using the software or in contributing to the creation of the software, reach out, because again, we are building it with companies that are trying to use it. So we have a few ideas, but we are validating the software already now with the company. So we are trying to see if what we are designing is resonating and addressing the needs of the first few companies. So maybe, Jorge, you have already a list of needs that we can discuss and we can validate against.
The software is based on blockchain technology. Do you know which one specifically is the basis of that?
Not yet. So the blockchain part actually won't be presented this month. So it will come later. But yes, of course, it's part of the IR has both blockchain and AI into their version of the software. but I can already anticipate that this will come a bit later. Okay, guys, if there are no other urgent questions, I would like to do a final round. This is the last touch point, at least synchronous. Then in the community, we're going to have other times for meeting each other and staying in touch. But I would like to give a bit of space. So my question is very simple. What's your takeaway from these two months? Think about the content, but especially think about you, yourself, your company, the companies you're working with, and what you can do through the topics, the canvases, the discussions that we had. So I will call your name and just share what you feel like sharing with the team. And I really hope to see you again in the community. So I really hope to stay in touch, because we are learning together. So we really think that your experiments are important for helping this group to learn together, and all the other participants to the community. So I will call you as in the order I see you, Maya, and then Naren. The floor to you.
It's unfair to be first.
Sorry, but you're on top left on my screen.
Good. So, well, my takeaway is actually our very last discussion now is the combination of the Rendanheyi approach with something else, because there was the big question for me. It's like, well, it doesn't seem to be working for this or this, and that's actually to combine, and the focus on that entrepreneurship component on the organizational level. That's what Rendanheyi is for. So that's my takeaway.
Thank you, and please try it and let me know. So for sure you will have other ideas.
We will come back to you.
Yeah, happy to help. Naren, I see you. You're thinking hard, and then Narit after you.
Okay, I think Rendanheyi is very unique concept, and from where I'm coming from, and also a lot of customers that I've been working with them, they want from A to B. Very, very, straightforward, clear formula of success, clear path of proceeding. So it is a very big challenge on how can we take this journey. And what I learned here is that it's about a small win, but it and exploring along the way as well. But that is very uncomfortable. But again, the big challenge, that would be my takeaway. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Narit, and then Heike.
I think for me is to any engagements that you come across with your clients, is just to have an open mind, really understand your clients, the culture, their needs, their goals, and really just take an open approach to it. Don't try to push a certain principle. Don't try to force Rendanheyi. Don't try to force any other say model, right? But go in and see what the issues are, and knowing that you have different elements or different pieces of different principles, including Rendanheyi, to apply to certain aspect of the issues or the problems. And then like Naren mentioned, do something that shows success, shows that what we're advising is working, and then slowly build that up, right? Knowing what knowing how to apply, when to apply, and work that way. And then once you have the quick wins, and you're going to have champions within the organizations that you can work with to build something and perhaps pilot something, but you have to have a quick win and show success.
Thank you. Yeah, I can then Kong.
For me, also the takeaways like really close, like reducing the distance to the customer. I think that's key, and bringing in this entrepreneurial mindset. and also like these considering these exchange of services, evaluating this, and also the aspects of bidding for a job. I think on one hand it's something I like, that people can, that everything is open, that you have the jobs more or less transparent, and the people can more or less vote for what they want to join and where they want to participate. In this extreme version, I have a little bit my doubts whether it's workable in Europe, as you said, just from the mindset, from the culture. But the structure, I think, is quite interesting to just reflect how we set up our organization and to challenge it and to see what would fit, what we can take it from there. And it has some aspects that I like and some others I don't. I mean, on one hand, I said it's good to have this entrepreneurial mindset, but on the other side, for me, it's a little bit too extreme. Just having this focus on this aspect.
Thank you. Tweak it. You can tweak everything. So this is
it has both sides to the coin all the time, and that's something I think for me that's a takeaway, to challenge it and then to make the best that fits the organization. Yeah.
Thank you, Kong, and then Johannes. Kong.
Okay. For my takeaway for the training, I think two things that come up in mind. The first thing is I got the two sets, the thought process, the framework, the canvas. So I think it helped me a lot, and I have to do a lot of unlearn myself to go with your process. And the second thing is about the mindset. I think we have like the mindset of ambiguity. Everything is unclear. You have to explore. So I have to change mode from the exploit to explore mode. So I think it's a lot of things to do when you do something new like this. So the mindset is also important for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Johannes, and then Charlie.
I have a lot of takeaways actually, also on the personal and learning level, like how do I learn best content? But I think that wasn't what you were asking for. But content-wise, for the Rendanheyi, my biggest takeaway is it's a great example how to build a very consistent, holistic system upon some principles and values. And I really would like to adopt this for something else. So be clear about the values, and then like constantly ask, how can we use this, and how can we develop that and create and build it, that it really fosters this value or this principle. For example, here it's the entrepreneurial mindset. So that was very impressive to me.
Thank you so much. And for the rest of the feedback, we'll send you a survey. So we'll ask for your feedback. We didn't want to use this, say, for ourselves, but for you. But we'll ask for this. So if you want to, sure, please do that. Thank you. Charlie, and then Jorge. Charlie.
Well, I have noticed myself throughout the whole times when I ask questions, on the Miro board, and I actually think that a lot of questions that I asked, I could have answered myself too, but when I think back, I start to realize that I couldn't comprehend back then because I still use the old perspective of seeing things, like how you are still the employee and somebody has to set salary for you, those kind of things. So to convince the people, to adopt this, I think changing the perspective or the mindset of seeing it in different view or different lens, I think that's the one that need to be tackled on first. And I think that's a stuff that I have to find out after. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, I said we are at the beginning, so it's not always easy to visualize it. Software will help with that, but it takes a bit, especially to unlearn. This is something that keyword you're using a lot. Thank you. Jorge, and then Chornagard.
Okay, so my takeout is how to apply this concept, this framework in the different kinds of societies, because like China is something, Brazil is something completely different, but still some key elements are very aligned with Brazilian culture, like the entrepreneurial mindset. We are in Brazil entrepreneurial by necessity. It's a very, very hard country, so we have to like struggle, we have to have skin in the game. And I think this applies very well. And also it has to be like a very, like a team play. So I think this resonates very well with the Brazilian culture. And I think, I don't know if you have already examples in Brazil, but I think this is very suitable for this culture. And I'm eager to apply it as soon as possible.
Unfortunately, we don't have examples in Brazil, so you will be the first one, I guess.
Wow.
I have to learn from it.
Great.
Thank you. Chanagarn and then Pinto.
Yeah, I when I first heard about Rendanheyi model, I was really, thrilled of excitement. I think the overall concept and is very idealistic, and it's very beautiful. Like, for example, zero distance to the customers, unleashing human potential and entrepreneurial capabilities, you being paid based on the value you create for the customers. These are very, very fascinating concepts, and apparently Hire has put it off really, really beautifully. But as I go through this learning journey, which I really enjoy, and there are a lot of things that I learned. But when I start thinking about adoption, as Naren said, I feel a lot of challenges. People here, especially, and our clients, mostly big companies, listed companies, those really want to see things in framework and steps. And the more I go through this learning journey, the more I think that this is not for everybody. And it requires entrepreneurial mindset in the leadership themselves to be able to struggle through this ambiguity and to learn along the way. And as Maya said as well, along with other people, that we need to start somewhere and probably think about, some hybrid model, or maybe start somewhere that at least like these big companies, if they were really willing to adopt it and they can see the difference and then start from there. The other one that I think is highly critical is, I think the heart of this that's really moving things the way it is the EMC contract and the incentive schemes and all of those. So if we have those in place as an open source, which you are working so hard on this, it will be really, really helpful for the rest of the world, I think. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I will check, okay, Pinto, and then I don't know if Ted and Alexandra are able to share. Pinto.
Yes, because this is quite the beginning. It's very new and very ambiguity. So I think the North Star to go along the way would be customer centric, or maybe have faith for the design thinking, or they like believe in agile. And then after that, just journey along the way for experiment and to like kind of adventure of these things. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And by Maya, I know that, yeah, here to get out. Ted and then Alexandra. Ted.
Yeah, basically already wrote in the chat what I wanted to say. I liked a lot what I heard. And although I know I was tagged somewhere on LinkedIn on the whole kind of how to use it in a nonprofit or with nonprofits, I'm still, yeah, that's something that I'm still interested in. Yeah, I guess all the different pieces and the unbundling, kind of the rebundling, that I'm really taking with me, and like kind of having the different pieces that one can plug together and play with and so on. So that landed very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alexandra, if you're, I don't know if you can, yep.
Yes, happy to share. So I tend to agree with the start. We need to start somewhere, and most likely this is going to look as a hybrid model. I think we also have, I mean, I can speak, you know, obviously of some large corporation. I think we also have already some modular assets in place. I mean, different from one organization to the other. That can be used also as some of the starting points. So not necessarily being focused around a specific micro ventures, but also looking at the setup that exists already in the organization and what can be further leveraged. As I was listening into the Q&As now, one that come to my mind is, if we think about the evolution of entrepreneurs out there, I'm thinking about pure entrepreneurs, not entrepreneurs within large corporations. There is really an evolution. There is an evolution in the sense that if you need to attract top entrepreneurs, for instance, to drive certain ventures, it's becoming more and more difficult to attract the top ones, because there is a choice out there as well, and there are serial entrepreneurs, more and more serial entrepreneurs. So I see the profile of these entrepreneurs within large organizations being different, because I hardly believe that a pure successful entrepreneur would join a large corporation to drive this from within, let's say. So there will certainly be a new type, let's say hybrid or so, or even a new identity of entrepreneurs within large corporations in the future eventually. And I'm curious to see how this evolves.
Thank you. Yes, so maybe let me just close, and let me thank Alessandro and Lara for being with me into this course. Yeah, let me maybe close where we started two months ago. Wow, that's a lot. We believe, at least at Boundaries, we believe that this is where the market is going, not just where the organization is going. So in a sense, all of these is happening, and it's happening in higher, because we have Internet of Things, because we have technology, because we have customers with new expectations, and we have platforms for people to come together and to play a different role in the market. So it's not because we fancy, you know, circles and the EMC contracts, but because we need an organization that is better able to serve a different market. If that's right, and because of all the things that we have seen, you need to think about a new organization, and eventually this is going to fall on traditional organizations. We don't know if that's next month, next year. It depends on the industry, it depends on the part of the world, but eventually platforms, and this is already true, are going to gain an advantage, both in the market and inside the organization. What we see in Hire, it's a unique opportunity to address this market need with a unified market firm theory. So something that is not hierarchy inside and then all the flexibility and multi-party collaboration outside. So if we are right, and time will tell us, this is going to be really, you know, a lever, both for individuals and for organizations, public, private, for profit, not for profit, to, in a sense, to become nimbler, more porous, and to include entrepreneurs, and to empower them to do what they want to do at the benefit of citizens and patients and businesses outside, and stakeholders outside of the organization. So I think right now there is time to experiment. At some point, yeah, maybe too late. And if you have 5 people, okay, that's easy, never too late. Maybe if you have 500,000 people or 50,000 people, we know it takes years. So that's why we're working with organizations right now to help them define a journey that it will take probably years. And right now it's a starting point. At least this is what we believe. Let me stop here. We are a bit late. Thank you really so much. I personally enjoyed your questions, your experiments and your thinking. As I said, we're going to share a bit more communication with you the coming days. The recordings from previous sessions are already online. So if you want to look at previous sessions, they're in our post. We're going to share this one as well. And then we're going to invite you into the community. And then we'll show the materials and the feedback survey if you want to give us a bit of feedback. Thank you so much for being with us in this journey. Let's stay in touch, please. Let's keep learning together. Thank you. Have a good evening or night, depending on where you connect from. And see you online. Everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All the best. Thank you.
Bye-bye.